The Carleton College Convocation program is a weekly lecture series that brings fresh insights and perspectives from experts in a variety of fields. The program has a rich history dating back several decades. The selected Convocation speakers assist the liberal arts mission of centering thoughtful conversations within education and beyond.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to opening Convocation and the start of a new school year. My name is Schuyler Vogel. I am your college chaplain, and it is so good to be back with you. No matter if you return to the friendly confines of your hometown or traveled the world, whether you worked a job, did research on campus, or simply rested after a rigorous academic year. We want to give a especially warm welcome to our first-year class, the class of 2028. Welcome to Carleton. We know that college can be many different things, but it is almost always a time of tremendous learning and transformation, both within and outside the classroom. Know that regardless of what you find here, regardless of what awaits, we all who are here for you, ready to be with you through thick or thin. We hope, of course, that you will find Carleton a place of exemplary academic rigor and learning, where you can lay the foundations for your professional aspirations. But we also want it to be a place where you can grow into the human being you want to be. A place to explore the questions that matter most, questions of meaning and purpose and connection, which in the end will be how we all measure our time best on earth. This holistic spirit of Carleton is more important this year than any, for we all know that this year will be a year unlike any other. We are facing down a generation-defining election, the results of which will impact each and every one of us. Across the world, war still rages in Ukraine and Gaza, with little immediate hope for peace, to say nothing of the violence in the Sudan, Congo, Yemen, and elsewhere. At Carleton, we are not isolated from these events, nor can we abdicate our responsibility as educators and students from addressing them. Many of us are directly impacted or know people who are. Our moral agenda as a college and as individuals is not only to care for each other, it is, as our mission statement states, to live into our calling to become leaders, capable of finding inventive solutions to these and other challenges. I'm heartened that we are already living into these commitments here. I see it in the coming exhibition at the Perelman Museum, which features two groundbreaking artists of Palestinian descent and their work centered on themes of displacement, collectivity, and resilience. I see it in the establishment of the first ever Carleton Beit Midrash, a Jewish place of study, a real need, especially in this time of rising anti-Semitism. I see it in Carleton's pledge of $2 million for the much-needed renovation of Northfield Public High School. Here at Carleton, we believe as a private institution in public education, and that we must invest in our young people. I see your values in our student work of interfaith social action and the work of our dedicated campus services staff. They worked tirelessly last year and this summer to lower the weekend cost of transportation to the Twin Cities by more than half. I think it's a good thing. This helps students, regardless of economic background and ability to pay, access much-needed services in the Twin Cities that you can't get in Northfield. I hope all of you will take advantage. And I see our principles in the establishment of our new Multicultural Center and Indigenous House, which was blessed for the first time this summer with the sacred act of smudging, a ritual we hope becomes a regular practice on campus. Here at Carleton, we believe that diversity is beautiful and racial justice matters, and we must commit to overturning legacies of colonialism. This is nowhere more clearly stated than in our land acknowledgement, which reads as follows. We stand on the homeland of the Wapakute and Mdewakanton bands of the Dakota Nation. We honor with gratitude the people who stewarded the land through the generations and their ongoing contributions to this region. We acknowledge the ongoing injustices that we have committed against the Dakota Nation, and we wish to interrupt this legacy, beginning with acts of healing and honest storytelling about this place. Our work of living into Carleton values never stops. New challenges will undoubtedly arise this year. They'll ask us to wrestle with our responsibility as Carls to make sure that what happens here on campus is good and safe and just, that no one is left behind, especially the most vulnerable, and that Carleton remains a community true to itself and its deepest values. We will be asked as an institution, where do we stand? We will be asked as individuals, what do we believe? So friends, let us dive into this year. Whatever it may bring, remember that we have one another. Remember that we are here to learn and explore together, to care for each other and look out for one another, to take risks, to strive and endure together. This is the life that Carleton prepares us to live, not just in some magical future far away when we are ready for what is asked of us, but right here and now, where this year will ask a lot. May it be so. Let us begin.
Thank you very much, Chaplain Vogel. Good afternoon. My name is President Allison Byerly, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's convocation. It's wonderful to see so many faculty, staff, and students here, and of course, especially wonderful to see members of the class of 2028. It was great to have an opportunity to meet many of you at Nutting House over the weekend and to hear a bit about your backgrounds, interests, and excitement for the year ahead. It was especially nice to hear many of you mention particular courses that you're looking forward to, or faculty advisors who have already been helpful. Today's convocation is part of a long-standing tradition that is one of Carleton's most distinctive features. The word convocation comes from the Latin word convocare, to call together, which combines the prefix com, meaning together, and vocare, meaning to call. Thus, the word embodies not only the idea of togetherness, but the importance of bringing different voices together. Many colleges open the year with the ceremonial convocation, but at Carleton, convocation is a weekly occurrence that reflects our strong commitment to academic inquiry and learning in community. We've set aside non-class time in the college calendar every Friday to create opportunities for the entire community to gather, to hear a talk or a program that provides a shared basis for intellectual exchange and ongoing dialogue. Carleton's continuing commitment to creating this shared space for discussion is a core aspect of its identity as a place that values open intellectual inquiry and robust debate. Faculty will model that openness of inquiry and will expect you as students to do the same. This means that there may be times in a classroom discussion that you find yourself defending a view that's not held by all of your classmates, or times that you'll hear others, a fellow student, a visiting speaker, or your professor, share analyses and interpretations with which you disagree, perhaps even share opinions or beliefs that you find disturbing. Your ability to listen respectfully, engage thoughtfully, and welcome the opportunity for discussion and debate is one of the most important capacities that we hope you will hone here and take with you when you graduate. The ability to engage in good faith dialogue about complex or contentious issues is especially needed at this moment in time, as the coming election in November focuses our attention on national issues and challenges about which community members may hold a range of views. The final weeks of the election season, the outcome, and the aftermath all have the potential to heighten anxieties or even deepen divisions. At the same time, as Chaplain Vogel noted, international crises and ongoing violence also command our attention and concern. In particular, we see here and elsewhere continued anger about the war in Gaza and a desire on the part of many to find an avenue for meaningful action. All of these issues may test our ability as a community to balance our commitment to free speech and open inquiry with the need to ensure a productive learning environment for a community of diverse views. At the same time, the impending election is a valuable reminder of the fact that democracy provides opportunity to translate voices into action. As frustrated as we may be about specific issues we care about, we have a concrete means of manifesting our views. We can vote for the candidate or party that we believe is best prepared to address our concerns. While there's no guarantee, there is hope that problems can be solved, injustices righted, and new ideas brought forward. This term, I'm teaching for the second time at Carleton, an English course called Fictional Worlds, where we use a range of texts from the 18th century through the present to consider what aspects of narrative make the imaginary world created by a novel or a story seem real. One book I'm especially excited to teach at this moment is Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. Written in 1993, it's a work of speculative fiction that depicts a post-apocalyptic Earth riven by climate change, social inequality, and pervasive gun violence. The novel begins with a journal entry dated July 20th, 2024. Thus, we will begin our class discussions having just entered the projected timeline of the future that Butler imagined more than 30 years ago. The opportunity to talk about Parable of the Sower's themes in relation to the actual realities of today is more than a literary exercise. It's a reminder that one of the key values of literature is its ability to use the power of the imagination to engage in social, emotional, intellectual, and political exploration that deepens our understanding of ourselves and of the real world. Literature uses the question, what if, to imagine many possible characters, situations, and events. Even when we know the world of a story to be fiction, in the sense that it never actually happened, we hold it in our mind as a potential world, something that could happen, and we learn from its successes and failures. While Butler's vision of America and the world is a daunting one, it's important to remember that her story is not a prediction, only a projection. Demonstrating the possible outcomes of the trends she identifies is one way to work against them. In that sense, speculative fiction is a bit like election forecasting. The trends identified in the polls may continue, or forces of change may disrupt them and lead to a different outcome. Elections are about making choices that will impact the future. The same can be said of education. You've come to Carleton not only to enjoy the experience of the 4 years you will spend here, you come here to invest in yourself by storing up knowledge, experiences, capacities, and relationships that will be a continuing resource for the rest of your life. That, too, is casting a vote for your future. You may not have a clear picture of what that will look like, but it will be deeply influenced by the pathways you begin to imagine here. As you pursue your Carleton journey, I'm confident you'll be energized and inspired by the wide range of courses in many different disciplines that you'll encounter, the wonderful variety of styles, approaches, and methodologies of your professors, and the many forms of support and guidance provided by our dedicated staff. We are so pleased that you have chosen to take this journey with us. Best wishes to all for a great start to the year. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted now to introduce U.S. Representative Dean Phillips from Minnesota's 3rd Congressional District in Congress, which includes the suburbs of Hennepin and Anoka counties to the west, south, and north of Minneapolis. He's the first Democrat to represent that district in nearly 60 years. Dean Phillips is an experienced businessman, civic leader, and philanthropist. He's a strong supporter of higher education, offering scholarship support to students interested in community service through the Edward J. Phillips Family Foundation. Representative Phillips is especially well known for his bipartisan approach to his work in Congress. He's a member of the Problem Solvers Caucus, which recently played a key role last spring in crafting the bipartisan debt ceiling agreement to avoid a default on the national debt. This caucus was also instrumental in the development, negotiation, and final passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which serves to modernize America's roads and bridges, improves access to clean drinking water, and expands high-speed internet infrastructure. Dean Phillips has said, "My journey to public service began the morning after the 2016 election, when I faced the reality that democracy requires participation, not observation," end quote. At a critical time for our democracy, his emphasis on participation, choice, and action provides an important model for civic engagement that's particularly relevant for first-time voters in a consequential election. Please join me in welcoming U.S. Representative Dean Phillips to Carleton College.
Good afternoon, everybody. President Byerly, faculty and staff and parents and students and honored guests, I want to thank you, heartfelt gratitude for inviting me to share some inspiration and perhaps even a little bit of provocation as Carleton commences what I believe to be its 158th year of preparing some of the world's best and brightest students for lives of exploration and contribution. And you all look very good for 158. For those of you who expected me to come today to talk about vodka and ice cream, I do apologize. I have more important things to share, and I hope you'll enjoy my remarks. And I also want to acknowledge those who were holding up signs moments ago in support of our brothers and sisters in Palestine. The fact that you were doing so respectfully, with decency, with integrity, and with passion is very much a metaphor for my remarks today, which is thank goodness we live in a country where you can do so without being subject to incarceration or persecution. And it will rest on all of your shoulders, all of us here today, to stand up at some point in our lives to ensure that that is true in perpetuity in this great country. So thank you. I had intended to make my remarks today very much focused on procrastination, but as I was writing my speech this morning, I decided to take another approach and reflect on a lot. And I will start with the fact that today is a day of new beginnings. I just turned to the president and said, what a joyful moment, what a blessing to me to walk into a room of bright-eyed, excited, optimistic young people from around the world, extraordinary faculty, staff, administrators, parents, with smiles on their faces at a time where we need to spread a whole lot more joy. There's a wide open future and limitless possibilities, and I hope that we can all take some solace in knowing what is possible. It's not just the start of an academic year, of course, but the beginning of a remarkable new journey for so many of you, a journey which will surely shape you and afford you the opportunity to shape the world and our future. But I do not stand before you today to simply welcome you to campus or back to campus, rather to issue to all of you a call to action. A call to live with courage, a call to live with gratitude, and a call to live civically engaged. Now, these are not just lofty ideals or abstract values. They are universal guiding principles that will help you navigate the complexities of this world and of your personal and professional lives. Lives during which you will summit peaks and you will navigate valleys, during which you will know love and heartbreak, immense joys and difficult pains. But always remember that a rewarding life is not one in which you avoid challenge. It is one in which you embrace challenge, in which you navigate hardship, and in the words of my late father, you must convert chicken shit into chicken salad. Something I never thought I'd say at a university. And I should say for you vegans in the audience, he would say you must walk through rain to get to the rainbow. I hope that is okay. Now, when I was your age, I took so many of my blessings for granted, foremost of which, as I said moments ago, is our own country and the freedoms, the protections, and the opportunities so uniquely afforded to all of us. I grew up in an era in which Americans still did believe that those who led our nation and populated its legislative and judicial bodies were generally people of high integrity, in which Democrats and Republicans worked together, endeavoring to represent the center-right and center-left of American voters, in which over 80% of Americans received their news exclusively from one of only 3 television networks, and in an America in which most began their day by reading one of 1,750 local newspapers, a number that has since my childhood dropped by 50%. So I not need to remind any of you here that a half a century later, things have changed. Things have changed. So the question is, do we embrace this change or do we resign to it? Do we let change manage us or shall we endeavor to manage the change? And that, my friends, and that will be the foremost question, challenge, and opportunity facing your generation for so many years to come. During your time here at Carleton, and as you embark on your lives beyond, I encourage you to invest as much as you can in 3 things that no amount of money can buy, no remarkable college or professor can teach, but ones that I believe to be foundational elements of successful lives, of successful countries, and successful communities. Those are courage, gratitude, and civic participation. So let me start with courage, often associated with acts of heroism or bravery in the face of danger, or extraordinary feats in the face of adversity. But I suggest to you that courage takes many forms. It is not always dramatic, it does not always involve a spotlight, and most importantly, it does not always result in immediate success. Courage is about doing what is right, even when it's difficult or discomforting. It's about speaking up when it would be so much easier to remain silent. It is about standing up with conviction when it would be easier to sit down in comfort. And it is about the pursuit of principle, even when that compromises one's self-preservation. And lastly, remember that courage is not solely the domain of physical and intellectual giants. In fact, the word courage itself is derived from the French word la cour, which for those of you taking French here at Carleton would know means the heart. Courage is not about strength and how big and tough and courageous you are. It is actually about what kind of heart you have. The reference is not the head, but the heart. So when you encounter people and perspectives that challenge or even offend your own beliefs, listen to your heart. When you engage with people who eat and pray and look and think and live differently than you, listen to your heart. And when you face moments of doubt, confusion, and uncertainty, listen to your heart. And treat your heart and yourself with the very same affection that you share with the people and the things that you love the most. Courage is not about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and moving forward anyway. It is about embracing discomfort and leaning into ambiguity, as that is where growth emerges. So I challenge you today, be courageous, take some risks, try things that scare you. I took a music class at Brown University, and it scared me deeply. That's a joke. To the music department. Engage in difficult conversations with different people and different ideas, and do not shy away from discomfort. And as you enjoy your own constitutional right to the pursuit of happiness, remember the words of the Athenian general and historian. Now, this is how many, I hope there's some philosopher and ancient Athenian war students in this classroom. Thucydides, who wrote, now this makes me look, I wrote my speech today. I wanted to look very smart. I wrote his name in phonetics. And despite that, Thucydides said, quote, "The secret to happiness is freedom, and the secret to freedom is courage. Now let's consider the power of gratitude, which Aesop called the sign of noble souls, and Cicero referred to as not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. So while it may not feel like it on many days, of the 108 billion people who have lived on this earth, each of us here today, each of us, are among the very most fortunate human beings in history. And now don't get me wrong, I know that our country, our communities, our world, and every single one of us in this room face tough challenges, economic struggles, emotional and physical health struggles, traumas, and fears. But humankind, especially Americans, have never lived with such knowledge, with such abundance, with such security, and with such possibility. But in our fast-paced, achievement-oriented world, gratitude is regularly and sadly overlooked and undervalued. We are constantly distracted, moving from one task to the next, one goal after another, without pausing, taking a moment to reflect on the many gifts and blessings surrounding us. One of whom is my daughter, Daniela, who came with me today and is looking at me in the front row, ashamed of her dad's jokes, I'm sure. But gratitude is a lot more than just an emotion. It is a practice. It is a way of being in the world. It is about recognizing the interconnectedness of our lives, about seeing the many ways in which we are supported by others, and about acknowledging something difficult for many people, that none of us, not a single one of us, no matter one's achievements, not a one of us, is self-made. Indeed, none of us got here on our own. We are here because of the sacrifices, the efforts, and the love of others. It might be our families, our friends, our teachers, and countless others whose names and whose deeds we may never know. But gratitude invites us to see the world with a sense of abundance rather than scarcity. It shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, from what is missing to what is present. And it is a practice that can transform our lives in profound ways. My dear friend and fellow Minnesotan, National Geographic explorer and creator of Blue Zones, which some of you may have seen on Netflix, Dan Buettner, will tell you that the happiest, healthiest, and longest living cultures in the entire world are devout practitioners of gratitude. So thank those who have helped you along the way, particularly professors. And the next time that you're feeling down or in a little bit of a rut yourself, do a simple and kind deed for someone who could use a little boost. You will see that by investing in others, that we actually fill our own gratitude tank. Now, my third and final call to action is about civic participation, the single most integral vitamin of democracy, the erosion of which poses, in my estimation, the single greatest threat to our country and our futures. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It does not happen on its own, and many will even argue that democracy itself is discordant with human nature. That's why it requires intention. That's why it requires commitment. It requires participation, fortitude, and a commitment to the common good. It requires each and every one of us to be engaged, to be aware, to be informed, and most importantly, critical thinkers. Civic participation can take many forms. It can be voting, not just in general elections, but please, please vote in primary elections. And while 88.7% of Carleton College, eligible Carleton College students voted in the last election, try to get over 90% this year. And let me just say, in a country in which about 12% of Americans vote in primaries and barely over half actually vote in general elections, 88% is pretty darn good. And I'm proud to represent the district in the United States, Minnesota's third, that has the single highest voter turnout in the entire United States of America and the highest census self-return rate in America, which means they don't have to come knocking at your door and get your... I say this because we are living in a state that is the model for civic behavior that the rest of the country should see as its beacon. So I want to celebrate that in all of you. So whether you wish to volunteer on a campaign or get out the vote initiative, inspire people and organize people to address social, economic, or climate injustice, just be a participant. That's how you pay it forward. It might be in something involving dialogue with those who hold different views or working to build bridges across lines of difference. It might involve standing up for those whose voices are not heard or advocating for policies that promote equal opportunity for all. Now, you, my friends, are in a unique and historic position to contribute more than just about any people your age in the entire world. You have access to knowledge and to resources and to wisdom and to opportunities that most in this world do not. And with that immense privilege comes immense responsibility. A responsibility to use your talents, your education, and your energies to improve lives and to build bridges, not to destroy them. So I encourage you to think deeply and profoundly about how you can contribute to your community, to your nation, and to your world. And like courage, civic participation is not just about the big, dramatic moments of activism or political engagement. It's the small, everyday actions and investments that contribute to the collective common good. When my own father was killed in the Vietnam War in 1969, I was just 6 months old and left my mother a widow at age 24, her with a baby boy, and no resources. My dad grew up very poor in St. Paul, couldn't afford law school at the University of Minnesota, so he took an ROTC scholarship to serve his country. And when he died, we lived with my great-grandparents in St. Paul for the first 3 years of my life. That's how it began for me. But then I got lucky. I got really, really lucky. My mother remarried a remarkable man who loved me, who raised me, and modeled the very courage, gratitude, and participation about which I've spoken to you today. But it would take 47 years, that's right, 47 years into my life to have a lightning bolt moment where all of that came together. And it happened to occur the morning after the 2016 presidential election. I arose that morning to the sound of my 16-year-old daughter, Daniela's sister, crying in her bedroom. She had just overcome Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she's a gay woman, which I did not know at the time. But having looked in her eyes, I saw a fear that left an instant and indelible mark on me. And as we sat at our breakfast table that morning and we FaceTimed Daniela at college herself, I promised my daughters that I would do something, I'd raise them to be participants, not observers, and the time had come in my life, that very moment that you will all face at some point in yours, where you can either stand up and take that risk or sit down and be comfortable. So I decided I'd run for Congress. I asked my friends and my family and members of the community if they thought that was a good idea, and every single one of them said, absolutely not. So I ran, and against all odds, became the first Democrat to win election in Minnesota's 3rd District since 1958. That's 60 years. And well, thank you. But let me say that winning wasn't the cool part. The cool part was winning in a way that made people smile, winning in a way that brought people together, winning in a way that was fun and optimistic and inspiring and gratifying. I bought a 1960 International Harvester Metro van. We called it the government repair truck. And I drove that baby all around my district for about 16 months, serving coffee and lemonade and simply putting out lawn chairs and asking people to come out and talk. Coffee and conversation. And the beautiful thing about it, and what I discovered, was the joyful conversations were not with fellow Democrats and progressives. The most inspiring, extraordinary conversations were with people who saw things entirely differently than I did. And what I took from that is the recognition that all of you will in your professional and personal lives, that if you allow people to be heard, if you create space and place for them to express themselves, as some of you are today and many of you will throughout your tenures, there's a magic in that. And it was the most profoundly moving experience of my entire life, going to Washington, D.C. And over the past 6 years, my 3 terms in Congress, I have endeavored to speak the uncomfortable truths, to expose and reduce the corrupting influence of money in politics, to inspire young people to prioritize public service, and to model the very spirit of unity and respect and cooperation which comprise the very glue that keeps the foundations of democracy secure. Now, I could tell you stories for hours about my interactions with President Biden, with former President Trump, countless world leaders. I could tell you about great joys of my public service, of which there are so many, and also the great disappointments and traumas, like being trapped in the House of Representatives on January 6th. But I'm going to close with an untold and seemingly unremarkable story. It occurred during a series of events that I host in my district entitled Common Ground, during which I bring 6 Democrats and 6 Republicans from my district to sit down and break bread and engage in a program that's facilitated by a wonderful Minnesota-based organization called Braver Angels. Any of you here that wish to bring Democrats and Republicans together to learn from one another and model the behavior that we should be holding dear, I encourage you to look them up, Braver Angels. So we sit down and people come with a little trepidation, a little concern about what might be forthcoming. We sit down, we break bread, we introduce ourselves, and we engage in a really cool dialogue about public policy, usually healthcare and immigration. And at the end of these 2-hour sessions, each participant at the table is afforded 1 minute to share a comment with the group about what they derived from this 2-hour experience. And not long ago, as we were wrapping up one of our sessions, a young woman, I'll call her Emily, looked across the table at Dave and with a little bit of a scowl said, and I quote, "Dave, when you drove up in your F-150 with the Trump sticker and parked next to me, I almost started my car and left the parking lot. I could barely get myself to come in the building and sit at a table with someone like you." But then she became animated and she smiled and she said, "Dave, I got to tell you though, I really enjoyed meeting you today. You're a good man and we share far more common ground than I imagined possible. So thank you." And that was a good moment for me. That would have been a capstone moment. But we went around the table and it finally got to Dave and I thought, oh my goodness, what is he going to say? And he says, "Emily, when I pulled up next to you in your Prius, I wanted to run it over." But he said, "I got to tell you, I'm really glad I didn't run it over because you are the very first progressive with whom I've ever sat and had a discussion. And I'm shocked to say that I really enjoyed it, so thank you." And at that moment, and I kid you not, the bleeding heart liberal and the passionate Trumper, they stood up, walked over to one another, and they embraced in front of our group. Now, this isn't a story that you will see on MSNBC or Fox News, or you won't read in the political rags. It was totally uncovered and frankly unappreciated. But for me, it was the single most profound, extraordinary moment of my 6 years in public service. Because we demonstrated my entire life mission, I hope the mission that many of us in this room share, that by mixing the readily available human ingredients of courage and gratitude and civic participation, that anything is possible in the United States of America. And when a Trumper and a bleeding heart liberal can embrace after 2 hours, imagine what we could do if we each took a step in that same direction. So my friends, whatever paths you pursue and wherever your journeys might take you, please take some risks. Please embrace the discomfort, please challenge the status quo, and please endeavor to make at least one small difference, for it takes billions of grains of hard sand to make the single soft beach that I hope some of you get to enjoy this winter vacation. So quite simply and with joy and optimism, I will close by simply encouraging you to keep the faith, to keep being courageous, to keep being a participant, to be a voter, to someday run for public office. Be a police officer, be a teacher, be a firefighter, be a city council person, a school board member, a state house legislator, a governor, a senator, a congressman, a president. But at some point in your life, don't wait 47 years like I did. Stand up and always remember, most importantly, that optimism is just as contagious as fear. I love you all. Godspeed. Have a great, great year ahead. And if any of you ever come to Washington, D.C., nothing brings me more joy than showing you around the Capitol. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Representative Phillips, for those thoughtful and inspiring remarks. I'd like now to invite Provost Michelle Matson to come forward to recognize students who've been named to the Dean's List.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the start of the new academic year, and welcome to this celebration of the new beginnings that lie ahead. By tradition, Carleton recognizes and honors student accomplishments and awards at the Spring Honors Convocation. It provides us as a learning community a wonderful opportunity to celebrate the accomplishments of many. The one exception to this practice is the Dean's List, which is always announced at the opening convocation of the new year. The Dean's List, a nationally recognized designation of academic accomplishments, is a very appropriate exception to our practice of honoring both academic and community engagement achievements in the spring. The Dean's List recognizes those students whose annual grade point average puts them within the top 10% of their class for the previous year. It is based on the GPA earned in academic work over the 3 terms of the academic year for which it is awarded. It offers recognition for superior academic achievement in the year just completed and begins each year anew with a clean slate, new opportunities, and a new beginning. Students whose academic achievements earn them a place on the Dean's List for the 2023-2024 academic year are named in your program. Will those of you who are named please stand up so that the rest of us can offer you our enthusiastic congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of our students. I'd now like to invite Chaplain Schuyler Vogel to present the valedictory.
Friends, the Congressman has given us marching orders. Courage. Trust your heart. Do not be afraid. This year and this time will ask a lot of us. Gratitude. Despite all of that, we have what we need. We have it in ourselves. We have it in each other. There is so much joy and love and courage to go around. And civic engagement, that is where we change the world. That is where we protect one another. That is where we ensure that the freedom to protest, to have our voice heard, the freedom to live and prosper remains part of what it means to be here in Minnesota, in the United States, and create a world where that kind of freedom remains. So come join us in March. Come join us in the adventure that will be this year of making Carleton and the world better for everyone, not just those here. This is the work of being Carls together, not just the work of studying or working or developing professionally for that job we want in the future, but of committing to making this world better than when we found it. This is such a great gift to do this work together. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
As we end our program today, I'm pleased to welcome Director Matthew Olson and the Carleton Choir to lead us in the singing of the Alma Mater. They'll sing it through once, and then we'll all join them for a second round. Following the Alma Mater, please remain standing at your seats for the recessional. Thank you all for being here. Please rise.